Okay, so we're diving deep today into something pretty heavy-hitting.
Yeah, definitely.
It's this situation in Trinidad and Tobago with two groups of officers caught in these insane legal delays.
Yeah.
Like we're talking a decade plus.
Yeah, it's really something.
42 in one group and 21 in another,
Yeah.
and all their cases are just stuck in limbo at the industrial court.
It's been going on for so long.
And the question that keeps coming up is, what are their options at this point?
Yeah.
What could they actually hope to gain if they go after the attorney general in court?
Right.
Like, is there even anything in it for them?
Good question.
So that's what we're zeroing in on today.
Exactly.
We've got this super detailed report breaking down the attorney general's potential liability.
It lays it all out.
And our mission is to pull out those key legal issues.
The meat of it all.
But even more importantly, we want to figure out what the potential outcomes could actually be for these officers.
Right, because we need to cut through the legal jargon and make this understandable. Especially for those who are trying to grasp this situation but maybe aren't legal experts.
Right.
We want to break down the core arguments.
Yeah.
And really pinpoint what could be the light at the end of the tunnel for these officers after waiting for so long.
All right, so let's unpack this, starting with why the attorney general is even in the hot seat here.
Okay.
The report hones in on some decisions that seem, well, let's just say questionable.
Right.
The big one, the AG's approval of the special tribunal's appeal to the Privy Council.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Why is this seen as such a crucial and potentially problematic move?
So you have to understand that in administrative law, there's this expectation of due process when decisions impact individual rights.
Right.
And questioning the very foundation of that appeal brings up some serious concerns about whether that process was followed properly.
I see.
The report even suggests that the approval was legally shaky right from the start.
Really?
Yeah, it hints at what they call procedural irregularities.
Procedural irregularities.
Basically, it's like skipping a critical step or not following the rules when making a decision.
Huh.
And the fallout from that was years of added delay for the officers.
So this wasn't just like a minor bureaucratic oops.
No.
The report takes it a step further and brings up misfeasance in public office.
Right.
For those of us not fluent in legalese, what does that even mean?
Sure. So misfeasance in public office is when a public official knowingly does something unlawful while acting in their official capacity, and this action causes harm to someone.
Okay.
In this case, with these delayed cases, the argument is that the AG's decisions or even their failure to act decisively when faced with these crazy delays might have actually contributed to the hardships these officers have been going through.
Wow.
By allowing these delays to drag on or maybe even making decisions that made them worse, the AG's office could be seen as having committed misfeasance.
This brings up the whole issue of basic rights.
Absolutely.
The report talks about potential constitutional violations, too.
Right.
How does that play into this idea of the AG being liable?
Well, if we zoom out a bit, Section 5.2 of the Trinidad and Tobago Constitution is really important here.
Okay.
It guarantees everyone the right to a fair hearing within a reasonable time.
Right.
So when you have a delay stretching over a decade, that raises a huge red flag about whether this fundamental right has been violated.
Yeah, for sure.
And if it has, that could be a very strong legal basis for action against the AG's office.
So it's not just about some vague idea of fairness.
No, it's much more concrete than that.
The report also points to a specific legal duty the AG has to protect the officer's interests.
Right.
How could that duty have been breached in this situation?
So the Attorney General has this legal obligation to make sure that everyone involved in a lawsuit gets fair representation and that the legal process itself is just.
Okay.
The report's argument is that by approving the special tribunal's appeal, and this appeal seems to have served the tribunal's own interests more than it did justice for the officers, the AG might have actually put the tribunal's position ahead of their duty to act in the best interests of these officers.
It makes you wonder what their priorities were.
It does.
And then the report brings up a really disturbing thought that maybe these delays weren't just some accident.
Yeah.
It suggests there could have been intentional delays with a specific goal in mind.
It's a serious allegation.
What are the implications if that's true?
The report doesn't shy away from suggesting that the AG's office might have deliberately dragged these proceedings out.
Wow.
And the worry here is that this could have been a tactic to let the statute of limitations run out.
The statute of limitations.
Right. For those who aren't familiar, it's basically a time limit for taking legal action.
Okay.
So if they stalled long enough, the officers might not even be able to seek justice anymore.
That's messed up.
It is, and if that was the intention and it can be proven, it would be a huge deal with major legal consequences.
Let's shift gears now and talk about the people at the heart of this, the two groups of officers.
Yeah.
First, the 42 officers who've been waiting for over 10 years.
It's unbelievable.
What's their story and what legal grounds do they have to stand on?
For this first group, the report paints a pretty clear picture of the immense hardship caused by this whole mess.
Right.
Years of mismanagement and legal roadblocks all piled up.
Yeah.
The AG's approval of that special tribunal appeal directly blocked their path to any resolution.
It's like they hit a brick wall.
Exactly. And because of that, the report suggests they have a strong legal basis for seeking compensation.
What kind of compensation?
Mainly because their fundamental right to a timely hearing was potentially violated. You know, that constitutional right we talked about.
Right. And what about the second group, the 21 officers stuck in this decade-long backlog, too?
Yeah, they're in a tough spot.
What specific challenges have they been up against?
Their situation is a bit different, but just as bad.
Okay.
They were apparently denied legal representation.
Really?
And their cases are still unresolved, largely because the first batch's proceedings have been dragging on for so long.
It's like a domino effect.
Exactly. And there's another layer to it.
What's that?
The report highlights potential fraud.
Fraud.
Yeah, it seems someone might have been collecting money from these officers, promising legal services, but never delivering.
No way.
And on top of that, there's a chance they could seek judicial review against the special tribunal itself over how they've handled these cases.
So many layers to this.
It's a lot, and the report really stresses that the AG's failure to step in and do something has made things worse for both groups.
So knowing all this about the legal mess-ups and the huge impact on these officers, let's get to what our listeners really want to know.
Okay.
If these officers take the Attorney General to court, what can they actually do?
Yeah.
What are the realistic legal actions and remedies they can pursue?
Right.
After all this time, what's in it for them?
Well, the report outlines a few key legal avenues.
Okay.
First off, both groups of officers could go after compensation. Their claims would probably center on the violation of their constitutional right to a hearing within a reasonable time, that misfeasance we discussed, and the very real financial and emotional distress they've been through because of this decade-long legal nightmare.
Makes sense. But is it just about money? Are there other legal tools they could use to get some justice?
The report also mentions judicial review.
Judicial review.
It's a way for them to challenge how the special tribunal handled their cases.
Okay.
They could argue that the tribunal acted unfairly or didn't follow the rules.
I see.
Plus, they could think about filing ombudsman complaints against different entities.
Like who?
Well, the AG's office for sure.
Right.
Maybe even the Environmental Protection Agency if it's connected to the root of the problem. And definitely the special tribunal itself.
For what?
For mismanaging these cases for so long.
So basically alleging public mismanagement.
Exactly.
What about suing the Attorney General directly? Is that a realistic option for them?
It's possible, but the report makes it clear that they would need rock-solid evidence to make it work.
What kind of evidence?
Documentary proof showing direct misconduct or negligence on the AG's part.
Okay.
It's a high bar to clear, but it's still an option if they can find the evidence.
And of course, we know the legal system is full of hurdles.
It is.
What are the big challenges and legal considerations these officers would need to be prepared for if they decide to take this on?
One of the biggest is proving their case.
Right.
They need clear and convincing evidence of misfeasance or that the procedures weren't followed correctly.
Okay.
Another challenge is the statute of limitations.
That time limit thing.
Yeah. With these long delays, some of their claims might technically be past that deadline.
Oh, man.
But the report does say that violations of constitutional rights can sometimes be an exception to that rule, so there might be a way around it.
That's good to know. And if they're going after financial compensation, what do they need to show to make a strong case?
To get that compensation, they'd need to provide tangible proof of their financial losses.
Like what specifically?
Things like lost wages, legal fees. They had to pay themselves any documented career setbacks that happened because of these delays.
Makes sense.
But it's not just about the money. They also need to demonstrate the emotional toll this has taken on them.
Yeah, all that mental distress and suffering from years of uncertainty and injustice.
Exactly. And if they can prove misfeasance, There's even a chance the court could award punitive damages.
Punitive damages.
Yeah, those are meant to punish the wrongdoer, not just compensate the victim.
So it's like a deterrent to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Exactly.
The report also mentions some relevant case law and precedents to give context to the legal principles involved.
Right.
Can you highlight a few key cases that might come into play here?
Sure. There's Hoffman v. DPP from 1985.
Okay.
It lays down the principle that justice can't be delayed unreasonably,
Right.
which directly supports the officer's claim that their right to a timely hearing was violated.
I see.
Then there's Three Rivers District Council v. Bank of England from 2003.
What does that one tell us?
It gives a clear definition of misfeasance in public office. A public official knowingly acting unlawfully and causing harm.
Right, like we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And that aligns with one of the potential claims against the AG.
Okay.
Another relevant case is RV Secretary of State for the Home Department ex parte duty from 1994.
Okay.
This one reinforces the idea that government decisions like the AG's approval of the appeal have to follow legal standards and be justifiable.
So they can't just do whatever they want.
Right. And lastly, there's Anufrajeva v. Southwark LBC from 2003.
What's significant about that one?
It sets a precedent showing that long delays causing real psychological harm can be grounds for compensation.
So it's not just about financial losses.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key potential benefits for these officers if they decide to go after the Attorney General?
Oh.
What's the biggest win they could hope for?
Well, the main potential benefits are about holding someone accountable and getting some justice for all the harm they've suffered. They could potentially get significant financial compensation.
For all the lost income and expenses and the emotional toll.
Exactly. And beyond, the money-taking legal action could finally give them some closure.
Yeah?
And a sense that justice was served after all this time.
That would be huge.
It would. And holding a high-ranking official responsible for alleged misfeasance and constitutional violations would be a significant outcome, too.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it's clear that even though there are paths to justice, it's going to be a tough road.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like we've been talking about. They're going to face a lot of challenges gathering evidence and navigating the legal system.
It's not going to be easy.
And they'll have to overcome those statute of limitations arguments.
All right.
And really prove that the AG's actions or lack of action directly caused their specific damages.
All of that's going to require some top-notch legal help.
No doubt. This whole situation is a stark reminder of how vital a functioning justice system is.
It is.
And the huge impact that delays can have on people's lives.
Absolutely.
It really makes you think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like how these drawn-out legal battles affect the public's trust in the system.
For sure.
And the responsibility of those in power to make sure legal matters are handled fairly and swiftly.
It's something we all need to think about.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for helping us break down this complex issue today.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, keep those questions coming. We'll keep diving deep.
I want to show you what the courts have started doing to me. So since the 13th of March, I am asking for information. This same email here that I have been using for 3 years now, since I've been looking for information from them, from the industrial court. I've been using this email. For instance, let's go here. We're going to see. This email I've been using. Alright. Not this one. The email here. Court registry. I've been using this email since 2022. Alright. And it haven't been bouncing. I've been asking them for information from here. And it haven't been bouncing. But today. Alright, we are looking at what is happening now. My email is coming back. Same email. Email. Alright. So they are dealing with me now on a higher level. They don't want to deal with me anymore. So this is another arm. This is one is for the appeal court. Alright, there is 2 documents that I still have to get to show that the appeal to the Privy Council was done correctly. They have given me, according to them, they have given me all the documents already, but there are 2 documents that they have not given to me, which is this document, Certificate of Final Judgment, alright, a record of appeal transmission notice. Those 2 documents they have not given to me as yet, and I've been asking for this since in 2023. Alright, they gave me a document. They have given me a document. They sent a document to me, which is this, and this have nothing to do with what I asked for. Alright, so they are telling me that when they gather all the information, so please note that the remaining outstanding documents are currently in the process of being obtained. So since in 2024, yes, 2024, once they have been made available, you will be notified and it will be dispatched to you. So since 2024, I've been asking them for the documents to show that the matter is completed, but at that time I did not know the name of the documents. So after doing my due diligence and doing my research, I realized that these are the names of the documents that I have to get, and this is to prove that the delay. Now I am saying that they wanted to run out the time. To me, this is what it looks like, that they wanted to run out the time so that statutory bar would reach. That is what I saw. That was their tactics. Alright, now to prove that, I have to get these 2 documents to prove that. Right? Because what they did, they registered the matter in the Privy Council and let it sit there. They did not list the matter for hearing. So you can register matter and yet not list the matter for hearing. So what would have happened is that the matter would have stayed there. They would have said that they were still negotiating, and when the time of limitation came, they would have just say, okay, we have come to an agreement, and we would not list the matter for hearing anymore. And this is where we would have lost our chance to say anything to the court. Alright, so they would not answer, so this is what I had to do. This is what I had to do. Alright, I had to report it to the ombudsman now. Alright, I had to report the matter to the ombudsman. So I made a report to the ombudsman. And even making the report here, they are trying to bamboozle me by calling me on the phone and giving me directives of how to go about seeking the information. I have to tell the woman, no, send that in writing. Don't instruct me on the phone. You understand? So nobody wants to do their work. Alright, and this is why we have to be diligent in getting what we're supposed to get. Alright, and this is what I have been going through for the past 3 years. Alright, nobody wants to do their job, or everybody have, you know, some kind of hiccup. Alright, so we have to get this information. Another information that we have to get here is this case here. This case is not in any document in the court's document, but this is a matter is concerning us. Alright, so there ought to be verbatim notes for this case here. Alright, so we have to seek information on this case here. Alright, so we still have a lot of work to do. Also we have to seek information on this registration here. Alright, we have to go to the Ministry of Labor to get the registration, because remember, we have two registrations. We have this registration and we have this registration, July the 7th. Alright, we have those two different registrations. Alright, so we have to go even to the Ministry of Labor to get those documents. So we still have work to do. In order to prove these mishaps, we must have our information correct. So the AG is responsible for all those documents that I'm seeking. Those are his officers that is given the problem. Alright, so this is the AG's problem.